Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us as we discuss some test anxiety today.
Okay, so we're going to go through a few things. So we're going to talk about what test anxiety is, what it looks like and feels like. We're going to go through some examples of test anxiety that we've experienced, some strategies to manage it, and some study tips. And then we'll have some time for questions or comments at the end.
My name is Haley, so I'll be one of your presenters today. I am a registered provisional psychologist here at Human Integrated Performance. I've been here since about November of 2021, just really enjoying working with a wide variety of different clients.
And I'm Lisa Harder. I'm one of the registered provisional psychologists here at Human Integrated Performance as well. I've been here since March, so not super long, but I've had quite a bit of experience in working with people with anxiety. And I'm enjoying working with a variety of clients here as well.
So first, we're just going to get into what is test anxiety. So I imagine, anxiety is a word that is used quite frequently. We're just going to really explain more of what it feels like when you are taking tests. So it can be referred to as test stress, exam stress. You may feel really worked up if you're about to have a performance evaluation of some kind with school. So it can be described as a heightened feeling of fear or worry when you are being evaluated. You may feel a little nervous before a test, which is really normal. It becomes problematic when there's too much, and it can really interfere with your ability to remember what you studied for. So again, if we just look at the definition, heightened feelings of fear or worry when an individual's abilities are being evaluated. You may experience this outside of just tests as well. What does it look and feel like? So again, this is very specific to each individual, but a lot of people can describe very similar experiences, and we will talk a little bit about those. It can present itself as sweating. You might have a headache. You might feel short of breath, or you're really dizzy or nauseous. You may have your heart beating really, really fast. You're not really able to focus as when you're more calm and feeling more confident. When you're experiencing test anxiety, you may not be able to remember the material that you studied, and you won't be able to really focus on the question in front of you, making it really hard to accurately answer the questions that you may actually know the answer. So I will give an example first, and then Lisa will go into when she has written an exam and different symptoms that we've experienced. So for myself in the past, I've definitely experienced the increased heart rate. My heart beats really fast. Sometimes I feel a flush to my face. I get really red. And I also get really dizzy and lightheaded when I'm feeling anxious before a test. What about you, Lisa?
So for me, anytime I've written an exam, I get really, really anxious. So for me, what that looks like is my heart will beat faster. I notice that my breathing gets a lot shallower. So I start breathing from kind of like up here in my chest rather than in my belly. I might feel a bit shaky. My stomach starts to get a little bit upset. And sometimes I get a lot of racing thoughts. So it might be around things like worrying that I haven't studied enough, or I'm going to completely forget what I'm doing. And that's actually happened to me before, where I remember being in math class in high school, and I would understand the concepts. I'd be able to do really well on kind of like the little quizzes we would do in between, but then when it come time for like final exam or something that was worth more, I would just completely freeze and I would forget everything. And I actually ended up having to retake grade 12 math class because my grades were really, really terrible. So there's a reason I'm a therapist now, not anything involved with math, but that was one of the things I learned in university, that is actually quite a common experience with people who have test anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. It also makes me think about different kinds of questions on a test that can bring about different sensations in our body. So if I reflect back on my experience as well, if we consider multiple choice questions, I find myself, I really get into my thinking brain, like you said, my thoughts start really racing, and I doubt myself and I get really anxious. Whereas a written test, I'm in the flow, I'm writing things, I trust my thought process a lot more than multiple choice for some reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Similar for me.
yeah, we're just going to tune into some other experiences. If anyone else is happy to share, you can just type it in the chat box, and then Lisa and I will kind of read out some similarities and experiences that people have when writing tests. So we're seeing here heart beating really fast, dizzy, sweaty, a lot of similar experiences as to what Lisa and I explained as well. Worry. Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing, everyone. We're going to explain now what you can do when you are anxious. So these are, you have the symptoms that are coming about you, onto you. You're experiencing these symptoms rather. Now, what do you do? So Lisa's first going to just explain some strategies.
My apologies, I couldn't find the unmute button there. Okay, so a couple of things you can do. One thing that we talk about quite a lot is just taking some deep breaths. And the idea of why we want to do this is if we're having kind of this slow, controlled, deep breathing, it will decrease the stress response in our body and relax everything, right? So what you might want to do if you're standing or you're sitting waiting for your exam to begin, you might want to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. If you don't, that's okay too. Some people find it helpful when they're learning how to do the skill to put a hand on their stomach, because if you can kind of notice your belly rising and falling each time you inhale and exhale. And the goal is to breathe from your belly, not from up here. Like I was saying, when I feel anxious, I start to breathe from my chest. My breathing is shallower, which can actually increase our stress response and our anxiety. So we want to inhale for a count of 4 seconds. And then you want to take a pause and just kind of feel that air in your belly. And then you want to exhale slowly for 6 seconds. So inhale for 4, hold for 4, and then exhale for 6. And it's helpful to try and remember to like you're blowing through a straw, and like even puckering your lips, and just to slow your breathing down. And so generally you want to try to do that for about 2 minutes. Ideally, if you have more time, then great. But at least with 2 minutes, you should start to feel yourself relax. And sometimes people will talk about like how deep breathing doesn't help, but often they're just not breathing slowly enough and being mindful and paying attention to kind of those physical signs. So you should start to feel your body slowly just kind of come down from that a little bit. Another thing you can try as well is there's what we call the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. And so what that helps you to do is to kind of tune into small things that are kind of in the present, using our senses. And the idea is that it's going to take you out of kind of some of those racing thoughts, that panic that you might feel, and that kind of thing. So you might think about what are 5 things you can see, and you don't have to say these out loud, because you might look a little odd if you're like chair, book, right in front of a whole group of people, but you can think them in your head. So 5 things you can see, 4 things that you can feel, right? So it might be the texture of like this sweater, right, that you're wearing. You might want to like feel the sweater. You might have a keychain in your pocket. You might have a pen, right? So just those things that you can feel. 3 things that you can hear. So you might hear a clock, you might hear some traffic outside, you might hear some people kind of talking, you might hear pages turning if it's pretty quiet. 2 things that you can smell, and then one thing you can taste, right? So some people find it helpful to chew gum or have mints or something like that. So you might find it helpful to carry around gum or mints with you and pop one in your mouth and just focus on what those flavors taste like, and any kind of sensations along with that, right? Sometimes mint feels a bit cooling, so that might be something that you notice.
Great, thank you, Lisa. A few more that I will share as well, just in case you want a toolbox of different of ways that you can calm your body down and regulate during that anxiety sensation. One way, so I'm going to introduce two different bilateral movements. So these movements really decrease the physiological activation in your body and really helps decrease worry. So one way to do this is really discreet, is to look about 45 degrees with your eyes. So you keep your head straight and you look about 45 degrees to one side for about 30 seconds. You may find that you want to yawn, swallow, or take a deep sigh. My body wants to yawn, and then just rotate to the other side. Just hold your eyes here, not too much so that you're feeling a really deep strain in your eye, but just enough to feel a little bit of tension. Excuse me. And back to the center. So you may find that works for you, or it may not, and that's okay. You can try something else. The last one that we'll show you today is called the butterfly hug. So this one is something that you can do. It's very discreet as well. So you can put your hands in front of you, turn them to you, cross them, and kind of make a butterfly. And you put it on your chest like this, and you can just tap your chest back and forth. It also brings your awareness, your focus from your thoughts and your worry onto the sensation of what it feels like to tap your chest. So it just brings your focus somewhere else other than the worry. So you can do that if that feels good. I think Lisa's just waiting to unmute her microphone. Just bear with us.
Sorry about that. So for practice today, we are going to show you a video here. Just bear with me for 1 second to get it loaded. And it is one exercise we haven't really talked about yet, but it is progressive muscle relaxation. And so this might be a little bit more difficult to do, right before an exam, but you may be able to, let's say, like before you're preparing to go write your exam, engage in this at home. If you have some time and you're kind of on your own, this may be also something that's helpful to do. But basically what you're going to do is just walk through like squeezing and releasing, and squeezing, holding, and releasing different parts of your muscles. And the idea being that will relax kind of if you're getting a lot of physical sensations of anxiety throughout your body, it will help you to kind of release some of the tension that you're feeling. Apparently we are having some technical issues here with loading video. So
that happened.
Does anybody have any questions, I guess, while we're just working on getting this loaded?
I do see a question here asking, is there a strategy for managing anxiety that you find works best? That's a really great question. And I think it all just depends on you as an individual. You know, Lisa, you may agree with me here, but I do find that breathing really, really helps really calm and activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is
Absolutely.
the rest and digest. And that really tells your body that you are safe. So anxiety is very necessary. We all get anxiety. We all need anxiety. It's our body's natural response. And so that activation you feel in your body, the heart beating, that is telling you that there is a threat of some kind, a threat of, okay, maybe you might not do well on this test. When you do the deep belly breathing, as Lisa explained, you tell your body, you tell that response, it's okay. We're not in any danger. We know what we're doing. We're studied up. We're prepared for this test. So I find that that's a really useful one when you are very intentional about that really deep, deep breathing.
For sure. Yeah, I would agree fully with what Haley said. Okay, are you able to see this video or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we're gonna play this here. And yeah, I would just encourage you to kind of do what the video is telling you. I put the closed captions on, so if there are sound issues, you should be able to read what you're supposed to do.
Is there a way to turn up the volume, Lisa?
Yep.
We can't quite hear it that well, but we can read it.
By taking a deep breath and noticing the feeling of air filling your lungs, hold your breath for a few seconds. Release the breath slowly and let the tension leave your body. Take in another deep breath and hold it. Again, slowly release the air. Even slower now, take another breath. Fill your lungs and hold the air. Slowly release the breath and imagine the feeling of tension leaving your body. Continue breathing slowly throughout this exercise. Try to focus on the feeling of air filling and leaving your lungs. It will be normal for your mind to wander. When it does, do your best to bring it back to the moment. Now, move your attention to your feet. Begin to tense your feet by curling your toes in the arch of your foot. Hold on to the tension and notice what it feels like. Release the tension in your foot. Notice the new feeling of relaxation. Next, begin to focus on your lower leg. Tense the muscles in your calves. Hold them tightly and pay attention to the feeling of tension. Release the tension from your lower legs. Again, notice the feeling of relaxation. Remember to continue taking deep breaths. Next, tense the muscles of your upper leg and pelvis. You can do this by tightly squeezing your thighs together. Make sure you feel tenseness without going to the point of strain. And release. Feel the tension leave your muscles. Begin to tense your stomach and chest. You can do this by sucking your stomach in. Squeeze harder and hold the tension. Release the tension. Allow your body to go limp. Let yourself notice the feeling of relaxation. Continue taking deep breaths. Breathe in slowly, noticing the air fill your lungs, and hold it. Release the air slowly. Feel it leaving your lungs. Next, tense the muscles in your back by bringing your shoulders together behind you. Hold them tightly. Tense them as hard as you can without straining, and keep holding. Release the tension from your back. Feel the tension slowly leaving your body, and the new feeling of relaxation taking its place. Notice how different your body feels when you allow it to relax. Tense your arms all the way from your hands to your shoulders. Make a fist and squeeze all the way up your arm. Hold it. Release the tension from your arms and shoulders. Notice the feeling of relaxation in your fingers, hands, arms, and shoulders. Notice how your arms feel limp and at ease. Move up to your neck and your head. Tense your face and your neck by distorting the muscles around your eyes and mouth. Release the tension. Again, notice the new feeling of relaxation. Finally, tense your entire body. Your feet, legs, stomach, chest, arms, head, and neck. Tense harder without straining. Hold on to the tension. Now release. Allow your whole body to go limp. Pay attention to the feeling of relaxation and how different it is from the feeling of tension. Continue taking deep breaths. Begin to wake your body up by slowly moving your muscles. Adjust your arms and legs. Stretch your muscles and open your eyes when you're ready. You've completed the progressive muscle relaxation exercise. Repeat this exercise daily to experience the ongoing benefits of relaxation.
I'm very relaxed now.
Me too. Okay. Okay. So the next piece of information we're going to talk about is just some tips for studying in general. So there's a few things that have been, there's been studies done to, and kind of proof behind their efficacy, I guess. So one of the things that has been found to actually be really helpful in studying and being effective in writing exams is to make a study schedule, right? So you want to plan out when you're going to study, what you're going to study. And some people find it helpful to use like a physical day planner for this. Some people find it helpful to use the calendar on your phone, whatever works for you. But just taking a look, seeing what your overall schedule is like in the next couple of weeks. You want to think about how many exams that you have to write and plan in advance how many days you think you're going to need to cover the exam material. So, you know, maybe for an English exam, for example, you might need, you know, a few more days to prepare than a math exam, depending on kind of where your strengths are and what you feel you kind of have like a good sense of what you need to do and what the material in advance, right? So considering that, you want to think about what kind of questions could be on the exam. So are they multiple choice? Are they using some formulas? If they are using formulas, like sometimes with stats or math or whatever it is that you're writing, are you able to take those formulas into the exam? Is it open book, right? All those kinds of things. Or English, right? You might have some essay questions that might be a little bit more involved. So you want to think about all those things. You want to set goals around how many topics you can realistically cover by the end of each study session. And the most important thing is we don't want to cover everything in one session, because you're just going to burn yourself out. It's going to impact your sleep. If you're studying until all hours of the night, you want to kind of, and this kind of ties into the next point, right? So spacing it out and taking breaks. So we call this distributed practice, right? So again, related to that, you want to space out your study sessions and cover a portion of the topics that you need to learn per lesson. So research shows if you're able to do this, you're able to hold on and remember the material much more effectively than if you just focus on one subject for hours at length, right? So sometimes you hear about people cramming the night before and stuff like that. That hasn't been shown to be helpful in getting good grades and being effective at writing an exam. So so spacing it out, covering a portion of the topics you need to learn and just focusing on that. And additionally, taking short breaks during your study session, right? So sometimes people will sit and study for hours and hours and hours. So a guideline that has been suggested is that for every half hour of studying that you engage in, taking a 10 to 15-minute break where you're not doing anything school related, and you're just doing something like watching a show on YouTube, or making something to eat, or just doing something that is away from your study. And the reason for that is it helps you to avoid becoming completely drained, because if you're drained, it's going to impact your focus and retention of the material. Okay, so the next tip is to paraphrase. So what I mean by that is, sometimes when we study, we will reread our notes, or we'll highlight things in our textbook. So while this is important in terms of taking notes in class and completing readings and that sort of thing, that type of studying doesn't lead to being able to hold the items in our memory storage and recall them when we need to. So active learning, or paraphrasing, is much more beneficial for retention purposes, as well as our ability to pull material out of our memory when we need, right? So for example, if you're studying English, as an example, right? You might write down the point or the concept that you're trying to learn in your own words. Or if you're studying psychology, which, both Haley and I have experience with, it's a specific topic or concept you're trying to learn, writing down what in your own words you think that is kind of the main point of it, rather than writing down word for word what's in the text, right? So depending on the type of subject as well that you're studying, comparing and contrasting it compared to other things that you've learned, or other examples of this concept, can be useful in preparation for exam and can enhance your understanding of it, right? So if it was something like social studies, or different schools of thought in psychology, psychology examples come more easily, right? But if there's different kind of styles of therapy, you might think about what's helpful and what isn't in each and compare them to each other, right? So again, that just all helps to enhance our understanding of the material and really get a thorough grasp of it. If it's a math or more technical kind of course you're studying for, maybe completing some sample problems, but being able to explain how you got to each step is helpful. So the next tip is to quiz yourself, right? So whether it is finding some sample questions online, or creating exam questions for yourself, or depending on, again, the type of exam it is or subject, having a family member or friend ask you questions from the material to remember what you studied. Quizzing yourself is a really good strategy, right? Because it can help to highlight what you know and what you don't. And for the things that you need some further study, focus just on those areas. Go back and just focus on those things, rather than the things that you can cite and get right away. If you're studying for a math exam, again, or something more technical, focus on what problems are giving you difficulty, right? If you're working alongside a family member or friend in quizzing yourself, make sure that you say the answers out loud. Because again, that's a type of active engagement with the material. And so research shows by doing that as well, if we're being active and saying the answers out loud and that kind of thing, your memory of the material will improve. And finally, we say this for a lot of things, and it's no different with test anxiety, but just making sure that we get enough sleep and that we're eating properly, right? So generally speaking, our physical health impacts our mental health, right? So it's true for any kind of mental health concern that we have going on, and it's true in preparing for exams. So if you're tired and hungry, it's really hard to concentrate on studying or on your exam when you write it. So just make sure that you're drinking lots of water, that you're staying hydrated, that you're eating meals and you have food in your system, and that you're getting a good amount of sleep for your optimal health and optimal results in your exam writing. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
I see we have a question here. What is the best time of the day to study?
Okay, so for most people, and this isn't for everyone, but for most people, research has shown somewhere between late morning and early afternoon, so between 10 in the morning to about 2 o'clock. But there are people that benefit more from studying at night. But it's important if you are one of those people, like I'm not good at mornings. I am one of those people that would prefer to study kind of later in the afternoon, early evening. It's still important to make sure that you're getting enough rest, right? We don't want people kind of like cramming all night, pulling all-nighters, and then going in to write an exam the next day. So that's something to keep in mind if you do find that you're one of those people that gets energy later on in the day.
I see another question. Is there the best study strategy?
So one of the things that has been found to be kind of the most effective is the distributed practice. So spacing out your studying, breaking it down into like little amounts that aren't too overwhelming in a day, and then taking regular breaks in that. That's been shown to be the most effective.
Any other questions or comments?